Welcome to our video tutorial of assignment 3, text type, function, and structure, with my partners Rodrigo Sangüesa, Ignacio Martinez, and myself, your presenter, Brian Munoz. The objective of the final assignment aims to evaluate students' knowledge of text types, scaffolding, syntactical features, recurrence rules, progression patterns, and connectivity in English as a foreign language. The first text will be analyzed by me, which will be Shamus the Great, extracted from the site pandorapost.com, and is a short story. The genre of this text is a narrative, which means there is a history where a real or fictitious tale occurs in a place and time. The function of this text appears to be entertainment or storytelling. It aims to engage the reader with a narrative that involves conflict, character development, and a resolution. Starting with the scaffolding, we can talk about the orientation. We can answer the who question with Shamus the Ruthless King, his son, Leon, one of the physicians named Toby, the Queen Edsina, and the question of where is the Shamus kingdom. Talking about the complication, Shamus discovered that his son's illness is incurable and becomes increasingly brutal and insane. He kills physicians who fail to cure Leon and outdoes the best physicians from other kingdoms, threatening their lives if they don't save his son. Talking about the sequence of events, we can summarize on three ones. When Simus prepared to invade a kingdom, but his son Leon falls ill. When desperate to save his son, Simus threat physicians and discovered the cure. And finally, Simus sacrificed himself by consuming the mushroom, saving Leon's life, but losing his own in the process. Finally, the resolution is that Leon's life is saved, but Simus pays the ultimate sacrifice for his son's recovery, and the coda serves as a reminder that true greatness lies in love and selflessness, not in conquest and tyranny. Going with the grammatical features, we have the past tense verb as a predomination, adjectives, adverbs, and pronouns. In the recurrence rules, we have a repetition with Shamus, as the protagonist indicating his importance in the history, and an aphoric procedure of Toby reference as the patient and explaining that was him in the text. Finally, with two examples of lexical substitution of Shamus as the Invincible King and Ruthless King, and another of physicians as magicians of medicine. The progression pattern in this text is constant thematic progression, since it consistently revolves around the central theme, which is in this case is Shamus, and the ring is basically information that happens to him in this story. In the connection section, punctuation marks and coordinating conjunctions are the most frequently utilized in the text, since dialogues and independent sentences are constantly used in this one.
Hello, my name is Ignacio Martinez, and today I'll be analyzing the following news article. It is titled Online Posts Reveal Suspected Gunman Spent Months Planning Racist Attack at a Buffalo Supermarket. It was published on CNN at May 17, 2022. It's about the tragic shooting that took place on May of last year. So, what kind of genre such article belongs to? The article shown here clearly belongs to the informative genre, as it seeks to inform us, the reader, specifically about the background and track record of the man behind the Buffalo Market shooting. The scaffolding begins with a summarized retelling of the tragic event, later presenting some background aspects of the perpetrator regarding his online activity and plans. After this, there are mentions of the casualties and how the shooting took place. Following that, many new developments related to the event itself and the shooter's profile are mentioned and described. And lastly, a sequence of events relating how the New York State Police didn't seek a red flag order, but instead just did an interrogation on the perpetrator before he committed the act. Now for the most relevant grammatical structures. This informative article features plenty of non-chronological reports, the most clear example of this being the new developments part, presenting 6 short paragraphs related to the central theme, but unrelated between them, except for one. There is also a substantial amount of adverbial clauses present, including but not limited to this, and this. Now, for the 4 recurrent rules, we have an anaphoric reference, defined as a unit that refers to a previously mentioned unit, employed in a different way to avoid repetition. In the second paragraph, the gunman is mentioned by the name of Peyton S. Gendron, and afterwards is mentioned as he twice for the rest of the paragraph. Repetition, an element that reappears with the same form in different places in the text. In this article, we have the word shooting repeated exactly 10 times through multiple paragraphs. Nominalization, a noun is used which is created from adjectives or verbs. In this example, we have the last paragraph of TV developments, and it mentions the verb shooting first, and after that the noun shooter is used. Cataphoric reference, defined as a unit that refers to another unit which will be introduced later in the text. In this example, if we don't count the bold lines at the start of this paragraph, we are first introduced by a him, that is later mentioned by his name, Gendron. Now, for the most frequent progression pattern, it is a derived hyperthematic progression. This means the article follows a superior theme of which the following themes are a smaller part of. The hypertheme is the shooter himself, being referred several times as Gendron, he, or the gunman, and the subthemes are the various aspects and developments regarding his background and the shooting. As for the most frequent connections, in the case of implicit connections we have plenty of periods and commas acting as connectors, and for explicit connectors there is a prominent use of the conjunction and all around the text.
My name is Rodrigo Sangüesa, and I'm going to analyze the third text, which is a description of the gorilla found on the official website of the WWF. The genre of this text is descriptive. Its main function is telling the reader what something or someone is like. Regarding the scaffolding, first, we have a general opening statement introducing the subject of the description. In this case, gorillas are described both physically and behaviorally. The general opening statement is usually followed by a series of paragraphs about the subject. Although this text only has 2 paragraphs, the first one is made of a series of sentences logically connected with one another. Each sentence describes a different feature about the gorilla. For example, their genetic relationship with other species, their physical characteristics, their species and subspecies, where they live, their societal structure, their mating behavior, etc. Finally, we have a concluding paragraph in which the WWF explains the conservation efforts that they have taken in order to protect the gorilla. This signals the end of the text. Now, I will proceed to mention the main grammatical features of this descriptive text. One of the main grammatical features of descriptive text is the use of linking verbs to establish relational processes. The most common linking verb is the verb to be. The verb to be is used in this text to say that gorillas are gentle giants or gorillas are stocky animals. Another relevant grammatical feature related to the previous one is the use of adjectives. Linking verbs, such as the verb to be, connect a subject with an adjective. In this text, gorillas are described as gentle, human-like, and stocky. The text also uses superlative adjectives such as the expression the largest of the great apes. Descriptive texts are also characterized by noun complementation, such as the use of relative clauses. For example, the clause a dominant adult male who holds his position for years. This relative clause is introduced by the relative pronoun who and anteceded by a personified animal, a dominant adult male. Now, let's talk about recurrence rules. First, we have repetition. Since gorillas are the topic, the name of this primate species is repeated several times throughout the text as the subject of different sentences. Then, we can find cases of anaphoric procedures such as pronominalization and determination. Let's start with an example of the former. Gorillas share 98.3% of their genetic code with humans, making them our closest cousins after chimpanzees and bonobos. Since the object pronoun them is used to refer to a lexical unit that was introduced earlier, this is an anaphoric reference. Now let's go with an example of determination. The two gorilla species live in equatorial Africa, separated by about 560 miles of Congo Basin forest. This sentence first mentions equatorial Africa, which is a general geographical area, but later mentions the more specific place, Congo Basin forest. The fourth recurrence rule that can be identified in this text is elision. For example, females become sexually mature around 7 or 8 years old, but don't begin to breed until a couple of years later. In the second part of the sentence, that is, after the coordinating conjunction but, the subject is omitted. The most frequent progression pattern in this text is constant thematic progression. The text preserves the same topic or theme throughout its entire extension. Each sentence provides new information about the subject. This new information receives the name of reams. For example, in the opening statement, gorillas are gentle giants, gorillas is the theme, and are gentle giants is the ream. When it comes to the most frequent connections, we have to distinguish between implicit and explicit connection. A typical form of implicit connection is the use of punctuation marks. In this text, we can find several periods that separate independent clauses that are logically connected with one another. Regarding explicit connection, this text includes both coordinators and subordinators. The former is used to connect two independent clauses in a compound sentence, whereas the latter is used for complex sentences. Let's take a look at the following example. Gorillas live in family groups of usually 5 to 10, but sometimes 2 to more than 50, led by a dominant adult male, or silverback, who holds his position for years. This is a compound complex sentence. First, we have the coordinating conjunction but, which is used to connect two independent clauses, and later the relative pronoun who, which is used to introduce relative clauses.
These are the references of the text that we use in the video. And that's the end of our video tutorial. We hope you enjoy it and have a good time.